And we're here.
And we're here. Hello. Hello, everyone. We're here a little bit sooner than we expected. Welcome to the 19th Hole Live on this beautiful, beautiful June Tuesday evening. We're here tonight. We are talking the Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 19th hole for the second time tonight. So this week, first, I'm all flustered here because we started off weird. All right, guys. So here we are, 19th hole. If you've been with us before, you know that we do some DraftKings picks for whatever PGA tournament we have coming up this week, as well as we're going to taste a spirit for you. My partner, Connor, here is an international certified spirits tester. So he knows what he's talking about, and what he tells you is the God-honest truth about these spirits. So, Connor, good evening.
How are you? What's up? I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well,
I'm happy that we did that twice, though. I always like grooving to that coming in.
Dude, it's such a badass intro.
Hell yeah.
If you're not familiar with @3rd&short, at Sean Media 99 on Twitter. He threw that intro together for us. Dude's super talented, and it is original music, so which is pretty cool. I don't think a lot of shows have that out there. So awesome. All right, well, let's kind of get into it here. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be talking about tonight. This weekend, we have the Rocket Mortgage Classic at the Detroit Golf Club in, of course, Indiana. Detroit, Michigan, of course. And then we're going to be tasting this interesting little beast, our first foray into gin, Roku Gin. It is a Japanese style craft gin. So that should be an interesting one. And you know what, Connor, should we just get into the gin?
Yeah, let's do it.
Some gin. All right, let's do it.
Okay, so this guy is going to be a little bit different than your typical, like what a lot of people think of with gin. You're not going to get like blasted with juniper. So that's probably the big thing to know about it. But a little background on it. Back in about 1899, Shingoro Tori was trying to basically start a gin distillery, and kind of through some trial and error and different types of spirits and wine, kind of landed on what they started calling the Hermes gin, which was the first gin from the Suntory distillery, which is now owned by Beam. So it's Beam and Suntory, so Jim Beam. So what's pretty cool about it is it's kind of a legacy method for the Japanese style of gin. You got probably coming up on 100 years worth of kind of knowledge and expertise behind it. So got some kind of deep roots in the style. And like I said, really what you're getting into is something that's a little unique from a lot of gins. So with Roku basically means six. And why it's named that is that they focused on using six Japanese botanicals in the distillation process. So, and of those six, they kind of represent the different seasons. So that what's going to be a little different in here is you're going to have sakura flower, sakura leaf. Those are kind of your spring flavors and aromatics. You're getting some tea, two different types. There's a sencha and a gaikuru. Both are going to give you more of that summertime feel. Autumn, you get some Sancho pepper, and that pepper actually has got a little bit of bite to it. And And then for the winter, you get kind of a warming yuzu peel. So really what stands out to me immediately when you drink this is it just blasts you with a lot of citrus. Like it's got a lot of lemon peel, a lot of like the bitter orange notes. And we can have a little sip and see what you're thinking, Nate.
So the first thing I noticed is on the nose, a lot of that like orange peel, real heavy on that like orange citrus flavor. And it's very much on the front end when you sip, and you take your first little sip, but then you get that pepper kind of on the back of your tongue, which I really like. That's different for a gin. I'm not used to that for most of the gins that I've had, which I mean, like I'm in the like Beefeater, Tanqueray, Sapphire, those kinds of Bombay Sapphires. Yeah, this is different. It's not what I was expecting. Not at all.
No, and like I said too, a lot of people are really turned off to gin because, you know, you get people that are, oh, it's just like drinking a pine tree. And, you know, this is going to have some of the juniper in it, of course. But I mean, predominantly you're dealing with a lot more, like I said, like bright aromatics, bright mouthfeel. And then it's got a really nice pepper type of finish to it that, you know, kind of lingers. Like it's almost got like, it's almost got that feel of fresh cinnamon on your tongue. And so it's just a really, really complex, unique gin. And what I love about it is having so much citrus to it, and so much like kind of summertime appeal. It's a really cool spirit to use in cocktails for the summertime. I think a lot of people kind of, you know, gravitate towards the clear spirits during the summer. It's a lot of vodkas. It's a lot of, you know, whatever, pick your seltzer, that type of stuff. But this is kind of a fun thing that you can do all kinds of different cocktails with it. I've had it several different ways, but you know, standard gin and tonic is cool. But you know, maybe do a different garnishment. So, you know, that's one idea. You know, a couple other things that I've tried, like the Negroni with it, gimlet, martinis. So again, just a kind of a unique thing for some people to try, summertime drinks. And just like every week with our spirits, this guy you can usually find for under $35. You know, maybe you're getting on the high side of the 30s where you're right below 40, but it worth every penny. I mean, it is absolutely super complex and well worth it. So
I mean, I do love gin, but I'm not like someone who sips it. And I have tried in the past to do it with things like American gin, Tanqueray. Bombay Sapphire is a pretty sippable one for me. This is ultra sippable. It's refreshing. It's not bogging down my palate. It's lingering, but not to where it's going to affect, like if I'm sipping this and having a Coke or a Sprite on the side as a chaser, it's not going to affect that flavor. They're going to be completely independent. It lingers, but not so much that it's going to affect anything else that you're doing.
Totally. And it's clean flavors, right? So like it lingers, but if the minute you replace something else on your palate, I mean, it's pretty much, you still get the bite is still there, but the flavors kind of dissipate pretty quick. So,
well, I think that's one of the things that's off-putting about sipping on gin is that juniper flavor just kind of like lingers and like right back here, it's like right in there, and you can't get rid of it. And it has those elements of the juniper berry, but it's not at the forefront like it is with most gins. I give this an A+. I'm very pleased with it.
Yeah, this is again, I was never a gin drinker, and this was one of the first gins that I actually like was able to drink and kind of play with, make some cocktails, and I've kind of fallen in love with more the Japanese botanical style of gin. So, and there's a couple other ones that I think we'll do down the road that are super cool too, but put a little bit of a unique twist on even what this is. So, yeah,
I love that. Yeah, I
totally recommend it.
Little tip that I didn't know what I was doing. So I brought down a dry glass and 2 cubes, which is what I usually do with bourbon in my little, I mean, it's technically a stemless Chardonnay glass, but it works really well for spirits. I've been drinking bourbon out of this thing for probably 8-9 years. 2 fingers, 2 cubes is kind of my rule with bourbon. So I tried that with this, and I got to tell you, man, that chilling it just a little bit cuts a lot of that juniper as well. Like if you're looking to really get rid of it, chilling it, pour it over a couple ice cubes, really cuts a lot of that out and gets rid of it really almost all the way in my mouth, except for a little tiny bit on the front end, but then it goes away.
Yeah, it goes away quick. And like I said, I mean, honestly, the way that I drink this a lot of times is super easy. I'll do gin soda and I'll throw like a just a little sliver of orange in there, and it's awesome. Awesome. So
This is so fitting, man. Our roots go back to drinking anyway.
yeah,
Not gin.
no, we've had some nights, man.
I
We've
think
had some nights.
those days were Jägermeister. We'll have to do a taste of Jägermeister one day.
Can we do some Goldschlager too?
Oh man, that'll make me throw up. Please don't make me do. Shout out Thomas. Shout out Jordan for tuning in. Shout out to everybody who tunes in. We love your questions. We love your comments. Please, we want to interact with you. We're not here to just listen to each other talk. We can do that all day, pretty much. I mean, we've known each other for 16 years. So, Jordan, my child, my son, I get to meet his real dad at the Fantasy Football Expo. So that should be fun. Hi, buddy.
That is super cool, actually. I'm kind of jealous that you get to go do that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, man. It should be a blast. But we're not here to talk about fantasy football. We are here. Oh, buddy, how old were you? Like 8? Oh, man.
Woof. I can choke down some.
I can't even choke down some. Like one shot makes me want to throw up. I can't do it.
I can do it.
It's that cinnamon. Like I can do Fireball, but that's because there's a whiskey component to it. But if there wasn't that whiskey component, I can't, man. I can't. It's too harsh in your mouth. Gary, what's up, buddy? Thanks for tuning in.
No, actually, like when speaking of cinnamon whiskey, not to get sidetracked, but yeah, no, I've been on a lot more of if I'm going to shoot cinnamon whiskey, it's been a lot more Jack Fire lately. I just like the flavors I don't know. It's a little more whiskey than cinnamon.
Yeah. We had that for the first time in New York City at Southern Hospitality. It's a bar owned by Justin Timberlake, actually. And in the basement, they have this big mural of Johnny Cash giving the finger. If you've ever seen that picture. But then we had it there for the first time. Man, it was actually really like I was impressed. Maybe we'll have to do a cinnamon whiskey flight one time.
Yeah, I'll drink anything. Don't you have a Justin Timberlake restaurant in Denver too? Or didn't you?
There was a Southern Hospitality here. Yes, there was. I think it's closed now, but I don't know. If I had known that at the time when it was still here, I probably would have just camped out there until he came in to check on his restaurant so I could meet him.
I love that guy, man. What a cool dude.
He's on my hall pass list. Just saying.
I think you and I have a very different understanding of the hall pass system.
No, we have the same understanding. I'm just saying. Justin Timberlake, give me the opportunity. I don't care, man. It's Justin Timberlake and Ryan Reynolds, buddy.
And what a perfect segue into the course, huh?
Right. We're going to talk about putting a ball in a hole. Let's go.
You're on fire tonight. Get you some more gin.
Yeah, right. No kidding. No, this is crazed Nate running around all day and then like not having time to settle into anything. So I'm just like, let's go.
Well, dude, you're a busy man. So I'm always glad to have you.
Always glad to be here, man. Wouldn't miss it except for the next 2 times when I'm going to be in Mexico. But we do have a sweet, I'm going to just real quick going to throw this out there for everybody who's watching. The next 2 shows, guest co-hosting in my place is the one, the only Bo McBigtime of Hotbox Hot Sauce, of Ball Blast, and he's part of Chalk Blocked with Scott Simpson. So that's going to be really cool to have him on. I'm looking forward to watching and hopefully getting to pop in for a minute or 2.
I'm pumped, man. That's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure he'll be repping the hot box as well. So we'll at least have that in common.
So getting into the course this week, like Nate said, we're at Detroit Golf Club for the Rocket Mortgage. So there's 2 courses on site here. What they do is they kind of smash them together and blend where they can to extend the course, make it a little more difficult to play. They've been here for 2 passes now. The first year, Nate Lashley won it. Bryson won it last year at 23 under. You're looking at about par 72, about 7,400 yards. We're going to have T65 and ties making the cut this week. Your grass is going to be a mix of bent and POA, predominantly bent. So a lot of the things that we look out for with POA, you don't need to worry about too much this week. It's going to be pretty tree lined. It's a Donald Ross design, which is, we've had a lot of Pete Dye lately, so this will be a little bit different aesthetically to look at. That being said, even though it's tree line, the fairways are relatively forgiving, relatively wide. But it really is probably going to play as a second shot course, just given the amount of dog legs are on it. So approach is going to be pretty important this week. Based on what we're looking at from the previous winners, I would expect low scoring. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere around 23 to 25 under is kind of my guess. But a couple of things too, just as a general statement. Again, this is not nearly as difficult as the last few weeks that we've seen, and it's also not nearly as challenging a field. So I think it's going to be a little bit, taking a page out of our book. It's going to be a lot of throwing darts this week. I think any skill set can really win it. So we'll kind of try and break it down as best we can. So using Fantasy National, diving into stats this week, a couple of the key things I looked at. I looked at strokes gained off the tee. I looked at opportunities in proximity. I looked at birdies or better gained. I looked at a little bit of putting. I didn't emphasize it a ton. I do think it's important, but on bent grass, I don't usually tend to focus on it as much. I think it's a slightly easier surface in my opinion. And then I definitely looked at strokes gained approach. So those were a few of the key things that I looked at in building the models up. So getting into our first tier, these are going to be our guys above 9,000.
Right. Lovely graphic from Third and Short.
God,
as always.
It looks so crisp. I love it.
So crisp. All right. So we've got your tier one guys. Let's talk about some of your tier one guys. The first one you've got is Bryson DeChambeau at 11,400.
Yep. And so Bryson, basically my thinking with Bryson this week is that if it is more of a bomb and gouge situation, which it definitely was when he won here last time, he's obviously got a large advantage over the field. The rough here, we talk a lot about the rough the last few weeks being overgrown, being a little bit penal, and really wanting to avoid it. This week, you're going to have moderate to high rough, but it's just not going to affect these guys the way that it has in previous weeks. So I do think Bryson's going to be able to get away with the bomb and gouge again. He does lead the field in shots gained off the tee. And then he's in the top 10 for a lot of the other statistics that we talked about. The thing that is kind of worrisome about Bryson though is I really don't love him from the key approach distance for him, which is going to be inside of 125. And again, I said it last week, but I think just watching him, he always looks like he's struggling, even if he's not. And it makes me uneasy. But that being said, he is a good putter. He's definitely long off the tee. So I think he's not a bad play this week.
One for that price, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean that is a little bit of the problem with him though too, is that you get pretty desolate down in the low sevens, upper sixes. So you got to be pretty deliberate about what you're doing if you're going to play Bryson, and you really have to think that he's going to repeat. So,
gotcha. So next up we have got Webb Simpson.
Yeah, so Webb's probably more of a gut play than anything, and more of a archetype type fit for the course for me. Like, he really hasn't done a whole lot since the US Open. He let a lot of people down. He's been fighting a neck injury. There's a lot of things to kind of turn you off on Webb, but he's very accurate. He's got a great approach game. I feel that, coming off of a pretty kind of crappy streak, I feel like he's due to pop back. And this course, I think, is really custom tailored for what he does well. He hits the ball pretty straight, has a great approach game. He can get pretty hot with the putter too. So I kind of like Webb. I probably like Webb a little more than Bryson this week, honestly. For a higher tier. So,
well, and you're saving $800 in salary.
Yeah, absolutely. And the hope really is that people will maybe be a little bit, maybe a little bit off of Webb. I'm starting to hear a lot more chatter going towards Hideki, who I like too. But when you've got Bryson coming in at around 24%, and then you got Patrick Reed coming in at almost 20%, I'm just even a chalkier Webb in that upper tier, because I've got him projecting somewhere in the neighborhood of 12 to 14%. I think that's probably the ownership spot I want to kind of try and leverage. I really don't want to get involved with gambling on Patrick Reed, who's missed a cut. And, again, Bryson, just because of the cost, it's tough to make that play. So,
Makes sense. So now you already mentioned this guy, and he's next up on your list. We've got Hideki Matsuyama at 10,400.
Yeah, so a lot of things to like with Hideki. He's number 2 overall in approach. He's number 2 in opportunities gained, and he's number 6 in birdies or better gained. And the interesting thing about that statistic is that he's pretty god awful with the putter. So, I mean, as a matter of fact, he's like 125th in the field. So he's not a good putter. But here's the deal with him: his approach and iron game is so good that you can't overlook that. I mean, he's pretty much fire with those. And if he's getting close to the hole, he's going to drop some putts. I mean, I don't want to mess with Hideki outside of about 15 feet, but inside of that, we're at least 50-50, he can make the putt. So I really do like Hideki. And again, I think at 10-4, that at least opens up a little bit of salary relief coming down from Bryson, which again is going to be major chalk.
Right.
So,
right. All right. So now, how do you feel about Will Zalatoris? He's coming in this week at 10,000 flat.
Yeah, so I was super hot to trot on Will Zalatoris for a long time. I've kind of been shouting from the rooftops since even before the season started that I thought he was going to be a player, and he really has proven that he is. It's a little worrisome that his last 2 starts were he finished T59 and then he didn't make the cut at the U.S. Open. But prior to that, he had a couple of top 20s, a T8. I mean, so he's definitely getting in the ring and boxing with these guys. And as far as the statistics, I mean, again, he's number 4 in the field in approach, which is probably one of the biggest things I'm looking at. So I feel really confident there. Again, though, he's another guy that he just can't putt. And so we're kind of going team no putt this week, but we'll hope that he finds a couple of birdies along the way. And I do think that given some of his history on the Corn Ferry Tour, like this is a guy that can go low. So, I mean, he's not afraid to. It's just whether he gets in the groove or not. So
gotcha. So then we're going to round out this top tier with Jason Kokrak, $9,500. How are you feeling about him?
I mean, I feel great. I feel so great because literally the rest of the world feels great about him too. He's the highest projected in DraftKings this week. He's sitting at about 24.5% right now, which is rightfully so. Because I mean, here's the deal with him: he's in the top 7 for every single stat I looked at. The guy has been playing awesome. He's made some changes over the last 12 months to really bring his putter to life. And matter of fact, I mean, right now he's sitting 5th overall in the field for shots gained putting. So I think at 9,500, he really could be your starting point, no problem this week too. That gives you a ton of room to play in the 8s and the 7s and try and avoid that bottom tier. But like I said, he's definitely all over the industry this week. Everybody's on him. You're not fooling anybody, but I think he's a must play.
All right. Well, now with that, we're going to move into our tier 2 guys. These are players that you can find on DraftKings for between $9,000 and $7,000 in salary. Our first guy up, Charlie Hoffman at $8,800.
Yeah. So good old Chuck Hoffman decided to withdraw. So don't play him this week.
That's you did. If he was going to play, you should definitely play him. But now that he's not playing, definitely don't play him.
I would.
All
yes.
right.
Well, or take the disadvantage and go ahead and plug him in. If you feel good about 5 guys, and give it hell.
So the next guy up, since good old Charlie here withdrew, we've got Emiliano Grillo at 8,200.
Yeah. So Grillo, going to have a lot of hate for Grillo everywhere this week. I think he kind of burnt a ton of people last week. But the stats still love him. I'm still feeling good about him, and I'm going to go right back to him. Yeah, I mean, he had a nice streak going, then he missed the last 2 cuts, and that's I think why people are kind of feeling the way they are about him. But a few things to look at with him. He is super good at approach. I mean, everybody knows this guy is one of the best approach players in the game. And he not only is he good at approach shots, he's good at landing those approach shots close. And then as far as birdies or better are concerned, he's number 3 overall on the field. So the guy can score too. The issue with him is, and right now he's right in the middle for putting, but he can go like Arctic cold with his putter. And if that happens, you yeah, you can rest assured he's not making the weekend. So I'm going to play Griot again, but I do put the caveat on there that if this turns into a putting contest, he's not your guy. So.
All right. I mean, it seems like that's been kind of the theme, as Seth said, hashtag team no putts. So
I can't take credit for the team no putt, but.
So next up, we've got Max Home at 8,400.
Yeah.
Can he putt?
So Max Homa can putt. He generally putts pretty well, not all the time, but most of the time. I was super high on him for several weeks. I'm gonna kind of go back to him. I like what he does off the tee. I like the approach game. And again, his putting is, I'm pretty confident in it. So I kind of like the combination of accuracy, approach, and putting with him. It's, there's not a whole lot more that needs to be said about him. Max Homa is a guy that can show up and definitely win this tournament. He's a competitor. So I really do kind of like that price, 8,400. I feel like you're getting a pretty good talent for the money there. I don't feel like he's overpriced. There are some people around the industry that do think he's a little overpriced. I'm not one of them. I think that's a good value. So
I love it. Okay, so next up, we've got Harold Varner III at $7,800.
Yeah, so HV3 is just my feel good play. I've said that before. He does rate out pretty decent in this field, but I struggle with Harold Varner just because I have some bias towards him. He's just like the nicest dude on the planet, and I just want to see him win. I want to see him do well. So, but that being said, he is number 10 in the field for opportunities gained. He's number 16 in the field for approach. And again, if we're focusing on proximity and approach, he's good from the proximity ranges that we identified. So I do like the iron game with Harold. His putting leaves a little bit to be desired, but he's another guy that he does have good weeks with the flat stick. So if he does, then we're going to be in business because he's got a solid approach game. And I think I'm probably not alone in liking him. I haven't looked at his projection lately. Yeah, he's not too bad right now. I mean, we're just about 10% projected ownership on him. So, not everybody and their brother is going to be on him at that price either. So that's good. That's a good play.
All right. So the final of this tier, we've got Kevin Kistner, 8,500.
Yeah. So I know I don't have a million followers, but I did blast out at the last minute last week to play Kisner because I love Kisner.
And I did see that.
And I call it a gut feel, call it whatever. Kisner showed up too. I mean, Sunday he was making a run, and I really thought Kis was going to do it. He caught a little bit of a cold streak at the end, but last week in general was exactly what I was waiting to see from Kisner. I'm a sucker for him, but he's good with a putter. He's very good with a putter, arguably the best putter on the PGA, if you ask me. And coming off of two rounds of 63 in last week's tournament, I mean, there's just a lot to like with him. He really looked like he was rounding into form. My stat model doesn't love the guy, but sometimes you got to trust your eyes, and I really think Kis can compete this week. And it doesn't hurt that last time they played here, he finished in third. So he's got some good feels for the course. So I really feel confident that Kisner is going to show up again this week.
I'm a big fan of that eye test because sometimes the numbers don't tell you everything. And in DFS, I think that's a really important skill to have, to know that, yeah, the numbers say X, but I know that it's possibly going to be a little bit different this week. So I'm going to maybe pivot and play. And that's why anybody can build a model.
Oh, for sure.
Not anybody can take that model and actually turn it into what you turn it into. Quick plug here. We get our models from fantasynational.com. So if you're curious where Conor is pulling his numbers, that's where he's getting them from. They're very spot on. They're a great website. Definitely, if you're thinking about being serious about DFS, definitely give them a look. And with that, we are going to get into our tier 3, 7K and below. And the first one, I'm pretty sure I'm going to say this right, Doug Gim at 7,000.
Yeah. Doug Gim. So Doug Gim's been one of our guys pretty consistently over the course of doing this show. He's just again prototypical. Love the approach game on Doug. Really like the price on him actually this week too. So he's number 8 in the field overall for approach, which is what we're looking for. He's in the top 15 for the opportunities gained. He's in the top 30 for the key proximities that we identified. So I like him. Not the world's best putter. If you're seeing the pattern here. So what we're hoping for is he's consistent and fire with his irons and drops a few putts, and he's right there competing. So I like Doug Gim again this week. And again, he's one of our guys. We plug every other week probably.
Kind of like Rory McIlroy, but a few tiers down. Okay, so
legally change his name to O McIlroy, by the way.
Okay, now with that, I'm going to butcher another name. Satoshi Kodaira at 6,800.
Satoshi Kodaira.
I was so close.
So he's a little bit like Kisner for me. There's not a ton in the stats that are really making him jump off the page. But again, eye test. I watched him last week, and what I thought was interesting was he kind of did what Kisner did. He went 63, 72, 68, 73. So it's like these low rounds followed by basically par rounds. And he's kind of been doing that right along for about the last 5-6 tournaments, kind of going back. But what I do like is that he's consistently finishing in the top 20, top 30 at worst. So he went T11, T13, T19, T36. And again, just watching him strike the ball last week, I feel confident that he's going to bring it again. And iron game is solid. So 6,800. If you do want to jump up and play Bryson, if you do want to try and ram in Bryson and a 9K guy, I think Kodaira's got as good a shot at making the cut as anybody.
I love it. So next up, we've got Danny Lee, $6,700 on DraftKings.
Yeah, this one really surprised me. Okay, because Danny Lee, like, I'll play him from time to time, but and he actually surprised a couple of other industry guys that I was watching earlier today too. So he popped at number 13 in my model, which seems off. But as I'm looking at his stats, he's in the top 20 for pretty much every stat with the exception of putting. So
that tracks.
So with our consistent theme of the week, I really do like the approach play. He's pretty solid with irons. He's actually pretty decent off the tee too. He's in the top 30, which for a guy at 6,700, I'll take that all day long. So again, we're hoping that he has a decent putting week. And on this course, looking at history, I think it's going to be a fairly level playing field. So I feel pretty good about Danny Lee making the cut. And like I said, nothing about Danny Lee. I wasn't even on my radar. And then I ran my model and I'm like, Danny Lee, 13th, huh? All right, well, we'll try that. So yeah, Danny Lee, we'll give Danny Lee a run this week. But again, as the stats like him, and I think he can play. So
and then our last to round out this third tier, we've got Vincent Whaley, $6,500.
Yeah, so a lot of people were on Vincent Whaley for a long time, including myself, and then he kind of fell off. And I want to be early to the party on him and kind of give him another run. A few things that I do like about him is he doesn't exactly play difficult courses very well. This is an easy course. And so I kind of feel like maybe he's going to have a little confidence and be a little more comfortable here. And prior to his 2 last missed cuts, I mean, we had a stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 starts that he finished no worse than T36. So, and as a general statement, his off the tee game was solid. He was gaining on almost every single one of those tournaments. His around the green game is good. His putting actually was pretty decent in most of those starts as well. He only had a couple starts where he lost strokes putting. So he's a little bit the anomaly to my pattern this week, and that this guy can probably putt, him and Kisner. But outside of that, I just kind of like where his game was tracking. He had a couple of bad starts. I mean, that happens to the best of them. So I'm looking for him to get back on the ball this week.
Love it. All right, so now we are moving into our dart throws this week. These are guys that are pretty far down there, and I mean, there's a good chance they might not help you. But if these guys pay off, it could change your outcome in a matchup. So first one we have is Cameron Champ at $6,700.
Yeah, so I'll be on record by saying I don't play Cameron Champ. I really don't. I think his short game is Not wonderful is probably putting it mildly, but going with the narrative, he's number 2 in the field in shots gained off the tee. He bombs the ball like crazy. I think he's second in the field, only behind Bryson for distance. He has a pretty decent approach game from about 125 yards, so it kind of like that. And when he's in some of those 125 or closer, he is putting the ball pretty close to the hole. So he may not have to putt a ton this week, which is what we're hoping for. Because he just really is not a good putter. As a matter of fact, he's 143rd in the field. So, I mean, this is not a guy that I would trust to make a 5-foot putt consistently. But
wow, I might legitimately be a better putter than him.
Yeah, I'm telling you, no shit. There's probably a lot of people out there that are legitimately much better putters than this guy. So, but he has won on tour before. He does hit the ball a long way. So there are some things to like about him, but he's, in my mind, at least 50-50 on whether he makes the cut or not.
Okay. So our final guy, and I'm assuming you put him on here just because his name is so freaking cool.
I know you love Mav McNeely.
It's a cool name, man. Like, name your kid Maverick if you want your kid to be like really super awesome.
Hey,
well, I mean, I guess it could go either way, really.
So he's a pretty cool guy. So Mav, not the first time I brought him up. I'm a big fan of his. I just really I like his style. I like his swing. There's just a lot of things that I really like about him, just watching him. And a couple of statistical things that I like about him. He finished T8 here last year, so he's comfortable on this course, or at least he's familiar with it from last year. He generally excels at hitting the green, especially when the green complexes are a little bit smaller, which they are this week. He has a pretty decent iron game from time to time. He can get hot with them. It's not always consistent, but he definitely can be. And then again, he's right in the middle for putting. So it's one of those deals. If he has a good putter, then we're going to see a repeat of probably a top 10 finish like last year. If his putter is cold and the irons are a little off, then we're probably not gonna have Mav on the weekend. But that's why he's a dart throw. So I like awesome. I like him.
So for our final segment, we've got the last call, and for last call, I would like to bring in a super special guest who is going to be co-hosting with Connor here the next couple of shows while I'm off in Mexico drinking tequila and having a blast and thinking about all of you wonderful people and wishing that you could all be there with me. We have the one, the only Mr. Bo McBigtime. What's up, buddy?
Everything is great.
That's a good looking man right there.
Yeah, man, look at this. I mean, my beard's not as solid as you guys yet, but it's only like 4 days old. So
man, I'm so pumped to have Bo on. We're gonna have a blast, man. It's gonna be good times.
Sure will be. Yeah.
So, Bo, I want to get your thoughts on this last guy because I know you do golf DFS. We have Chez Reavie coming in at $7,600 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dart throw for sure. I mean, I've never really been a huge fan of his, just because he's so streaky. You see him have periods of time where he's just red hot and he's always on the leaderboard, and then he'll disappear for months. And you never wonder where Chez Reavie is, but I mean, at the same time, you always when he pops back up, you're like, oh, I mean, something must have happened. Chez Reavie's probably just playing courses that he plays well, and not anything else. He might be doing like the opposite of what Brooks Koepka does. It's just instead of playing just majors well, he plays just courses that he knows well.
That's like how I just play par threes, and I don't tell anybody that my score is from a par three. Like, I played 9 holes. I shot a 28, guys.
I was wondering.
Yeah, I shot a 69 once, but it was on a par 64.
That's still really good, man. That's still really good.
It's my lowest score ever, and I just tell people that my lowest score ever was a 69. Nice.
Did you frame the scorecard?
No, because then they'd see it's a 64.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll back it up a little bit because I agree with Bo for the most part. I mean, so he is a super streaky player, like, and that's actually kind of why I'm on him a little bit this week. So of his last 3 starts, we got a T14, a T40, and a T25. So when you start to see Ches cresting into the sub T50 region, it's not a bad time to jump on him and at least run it out for a couple of weeks. So I like that. And, again, looking at some of the stats that are okay with him too, he's not a bad approach player, especially from 125 to 150 in, which is probably where Ches is going to be landing most of the time. So he's number 1 in the field from that range. Now he's 141st in the field for putting, which we all know Ches is just not a good putter. But keeping with the theme, if we can get a couple putts out of him, we get a couple of close shots from 125 or out. I kind of like him as an option. And the reason he made the last call this week is he's another guy that, like, we've thrown the dart at him a couple times now. If he doesn't help us out this week, we're done. Him and Tom Hoagie can go live on an island together someplace.
Boy, bye.
I love it.
And we won't remember that we did this either. Like, if they are cast away, they will never be spoken of again until we forget that we cast them away, and we do the same thing again next year.
I was gonna say Rocket Mortgage next year, and gonna be like, Ches, he's trending.
He's looking pretty good lately.
He's found some magic. He's playing in a subpar field. Here we go.
Hey, did you know that he's pretty good from inside of 150 yards approaching?
I've heard that somewhere.
Seems familiar.
Oh, shit.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've kind of come to the end of the show. I want to thank everybody who tuned in. If you have any questions on our picks, you can rewatch the show. You can hit up Connor. You can hit up myself. We have receipts. We save all of our show sheets. So, I mean, there's no question as to whether we were right or wrong. You can just ask. Bo, I want to say thanks for hopping on here at the end. And thank you for covering for me while I'm out of town. Could not appreciate it more. And there isn't a more qualified or better. Honestly, you're probably going to take my spot on this show. So I'm going to go ahead and resign right now. You know more about golf than I do.
To be honest, I'd rather go to Mexico myself. But
yeah.
Dude, so this is the rainy season. So, like, the weather's not great, but it's still Mexico.
Monsoon. It's so thick down there. Like you're breathing vapor, basically.
Dude, it's better than the dry Colorado air, man. Like, I'd prefer the humidity. We'll see. I'm going to come home and be like, I hated every single second of that. Why did I do that? Probably not. Aside,
you're not going to say that.
No, I'm not going to say that because I'm going to be drinking really, really good tequila, like we talked about the other night, Bo. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will not keep you any longer. Bo, thank you for dropping by. Connor, thanks, as always, it's a pleasure. And have a good night and go win some money this weekend, folks.
Cheers, guys.
Luego.
Cheers.
Salud.